Good evening and welcome to The Right Side, the show where we talk about today's news, views, trends, and opinions from an admittedly conservative perspective. I'm your host, Chris Pareja, and this evening I'm joined by Kevin Jensen, who's an active member of the Santa Clara community, so much so that he's running for sheriff of Santa Clara County. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about why you chose to go into the whole law enforcement direction in the first place.
I think I've always admired law enforcement officers. I was treated pretty well as a kid. And then when I was working the trades, construction, blueprinting, painting, all of a sudden I found myself at 22 years old. I was married at 19. I had 2 children. And with a high school diploma, I wasn't sure that I could get involved in law enforcement. I thought at the time you needed more, a degree. And Santa Clara County was hiring at that time. And I said to myself and my family, if somebody will take a chance on me, they'll never regret it. And went through all the steps and the processes with Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office, and the county hired me. I graduated #1 in my academy. I just felt like I needed to keep giving back. When you get a job that provides benefits for your family, and it's a job that's valuable because it's helping people, when you get to do something positive, it means a lot. So I've been blessed to have this job and to give back to the county because they gave to me, and I feel like I have to keep giving.
Okay. And so what kinds of things have you done since you came on with the Sheriff's Department?
You know, after the academy, I went to the jails in 1986 and served out at Elmwood, and I was a training officer before I got off probation. So I started training people and trying to give back even then. And then I got into the split. The Sheriff's Office actually lost the jails, and we didn't have any hiring or any promotions for 10 years. And a lot of people left. A lot of people went on to other departments, other areas, other states. And I had the opportunity to do that. But I thought, well, this county gave me my shot, and no matter what happens, I'm going to give back here. So what I decided was to make the best of this situation. And it turned out well for me because we found out the jails didn't have anyone to investigate their crimes. So with 2 years on, I am now an investigator for Santa Clara County, and I went far beyond where I thought I'd go that early. I went to the CSI school. Back then it was the evidence tech school for 3 weeks. I did the homicide school, the interview and interrogation school, and I ended up going out and trying to catch escapees and being the detective for the department early on. So it was a great opportunity out of a bad situation.
Right. And so what's the most interesting, out of all the different things that you've done, being inside the jails, being outside, investigating, what's been the most interesting for you?
I think the escape detail in the beginning was extremely eye-opening. I was going out every day. I was very young, couldn't grow a mustache, and I probably did not look like any law enforcement officer. So when I came up on a suspect, and after we had done the homework and found them via a visiting slip or via some kind of information, a trail they left behind, it was pretty eye-opening to watch a person look at me in disbelief like a high school kid is arresting me. But it was also dangerous. We had to really be careful about what we did and how we did it, because somebody that's escaped is generally, they don't want to go back. So it was dangerous, but it was also a lot of fun. But the coroner's office job, I ran the coroner's office for a year in the last few years. The UASI job was anti-terrorism. It was basically taking that grant program created after 9/11, and I was the risk program manager for the Bay Area. And then I was chosen to be the risk program manager for the state of California. So all of the critical infrastructure, all of the threats and risks against our area and our region, I was able to manage those with the help of regional threat assessment centers, fusion centers, if you will, that were formed after 9/11 to process that information. And that was also very exciting. But I loved my courts job. Internal affairs was interesting when I was investigating police misconduct. And then, of course, I love the teaching aspect of the job. I do that a lot.
I'm just curious. I mean, my wife's dad was a prison warden in Canada. And one of the things that's funny, you talk about escapes, that always brings to mind for me, one of the inmates escaped from their jail and stole a car. It was his car.
He got his own car?
Yeah, they stole...
Oh, he stole the warden's car?
The warden's car. Not good for the return trip.
We had an interesting situation when I was first on. We had an inmate that went, 6 inmates, I believe, went into the Sally Port with garbage. 5 came back. The outer gate was open. He ran off up the ramp, and there had been a motorcycle waiting, running. He jumped on the motorcycle, and we had to track him down to Santa Barbara. It was one of the cases where I was gone for long periods of time and followed by all kinds of information that we could dig up on him, where he'd been prior. We found an old storage unit that he had his stuff in. And eventually we got close enough to him, and he was caught by another allied agency, but he had written a book about how to be a burglar and how to do the best job at being a burglar. So he was committed. He just committed himself to the wrong things.
Right. And when he went on the speaking tour, that's where they busted him?
I think he just got out probably just now. He had been in for a long time.
Wow. And so, just to ease the minds of the citizens, how often do escapes happen?
Now it's a lot less, and that's because back in the 80s, late 80s, what happened was we had the Elmwood Correctional Facility did not have the newer escape-proof type of fencing. We have a candy cane fencing now where there's a double touch system that sets off an alarm. It has its problems sometimes, but it's much more effective.
Oh, it's flawless always.
No, I keep saying I'll never say that because there's always a flaw. But back then we had people walking away from programs. We had the concertina wire, and I saw a couple people go over. When I was actually working the jails, I actually ran down probably 3 over the years, running across the field before the car dealerships are out there in Milpitas, and tackled them in the field. And you know, it was one of those things where you just couldn't believe that what you're seeing, checking the perimeter and somebody shooting across the field to try and get away. But now I think we've done a good job about providing for the safety of the community in our escapes, which brings up the other problem now is with the realignment and AB 109 that went through, we now have the state's problems in our local jails.
And we've talked to other law enforcement personnel here. I mean, how is that affecting Santa Clara right now, absorbing at a county level what should have been much more serious, much more sophisticated criminals and holding them for longer periods of time?
Yeah, remember, we're supposed to be taking someone who's pre-sentenced and anyone who's sentenced up to just short of a year. That was the original intent of county jails. Our county jails are very old, especially the old main jail and even the jail at Heading, the North Jail. And what happens is, as we fill them with inmates that are now at a higher level, more sophisticated, more prone to violence, originally doing maybe 4, 5, 6 years in a state prison, and they're doing time in our jails, they don't have that incentive to be good because they're pre-sentenced. So you have a lot more issues with them being violent, assaultive to each other, assaultive to staff. And rather than going along with realignment, what I'd say is make the best of what we have, but push back and say this is not a problem that we created, and we have to be more innovative in solving the problem so that the counties don't bear the brunt of it. We're very fortunate that we did not have the major capacity that a lot of the jails had all throughout California. They're letting people go early. And we are going to get to that point if we're not careful. But right now, we're putting people in jeopardy. The police chiefs of this area have seen crime rise in all of their cities. Burglaries and property crimes and gang crimes, because now these people are getting back out on the street. So I think it's a major problem. We have to have a better conversation. And I'd like to partner with the chiefs because it's not just the jails that are effective, even though they get the bulk of the money. Your citizens all over your cities, our cities in Santa Clara County are suffering because of people that are now supposed to be in jail that aren't.
Right. And so going back to your other UASI ties, have you gotten a chance to interact more on a national level because of that kind of program? And give us a little bit of insight as to the real threat in the Bay Area and how maybe citizens can even help with making sure that things don't go sideways here in the Bay Area.
Well, I think citizens, first of all, will be very proud of what we're doing in the Bay Area. When I joined, I didn't know much about the risk and threat scenario in the Bay Area. And through the good work of the UASI and the Bay Area Group and San Francisco Department of Emergency Management that runs the unit, we've done a good job. I was a captain assigned there, and in that program we have a database, a software company, Digital Sandbox, that has analytics to it. So we put in the critical infrastructure in there, we put in the risk information, and with a great software that the state has purchased through these grants. The state bought it for everybody within the footprint. What we were able to do is develop a comprehensive system to not only find out what the risk is, but to make our plans on funding, on threat assessment, on protecting our local infrastructure, everything from the Golden Gate Bridge to secret facilities that nobody knows anything about. Mm-hmm. What I have seen is that locally, law enforcement can benefit because now we're starting to take CAD information, which is computer-aided dispatch, license plate reader information, and what I love about it is while we're getting all this information and people are starting to worry a little bit about NSA type stuff.
That was my next question.
What I'll say is that the local fusion center, the NICRIC, Northern California Regional Information Center, Intelligence Center, they have people that are absolutely committed to making sure that civil rights are protected. They train each of their people on civil rights so that when you have an issue that comes up now, it's not about how we're going to violate somebody. It's how do we get the best information so that we don't miss something, like some people accused on 9/11, and it may have very well have happened, but how we put everything together without violating anyone's rights and with that correct balance of protection and privacy. Because I will tell you, although there are many people on different sides of the equation, that is a balance that is constantly going to have to be evaluated, and they do a great job of it. They really do.
But they are trying to protect the rights of the citizens while still getting as much information as they can to bust bad guys.
Absolutely, and they speak on it, and they have formed public-private partnerships. This is where I really got the heart for the public-private partnerships. I believe that we are really here to serve. I think sometimes elected officials and sheriffs, are elected after 4 years. For 4 years, they can pretty much, they're autonomous. They don't really answer to anybody. Their budget's given to them by the Board of Supervisors. But as much as I struggle with term limits on a position like the sheriff's office, what I will say is there needs to be some accountability.
Absolutely.
A sheriff that is in power can do a lot, and it can be very, very good or it can be very, very bad.
Mm-hmm.
I see us as servants. I want to get back to where we originally started in law enforcement. We are the public. The public are the police. That was said, over 100 years ago by Peel. And when he said that, it's continued even to this day. So my thought is, with these public-private partnerships, with people in law enforcement, the chiefs, collaborating together and utilizing newer systems like this digital sandbox system and many others that are out there, because there's not just one, there are others that feed very well with that system. We are really making a dent. We are able to find the balance between privacy and protection, and I believe we stop a lot of things that could have happened. And I'm very proud to have been there and the risk manager for California. But more than that, now I think we need to take those good ideas, like you said, from all over the country. We may have some great ideas. Let's share them. Right. But we also may get some ideas. The best practices, I'm also the president, now the past president, for 2 years of the FBI National Academy Associates. And with that, we've graduated from Quantico, top law enforcement executives, and we've come back to our own area, 18,000 in the United States and the world, and 1,800, I believe, in California. And by serving there, I eventually went on to be elected to the presidency, to a vice presidency, and rose to the presidency. One of the only, I think the only 2-year president, because they took our president to the national board. So I was able to make relationships not only with all the chiefs in our area throughout the state, but also throughout the country and throughout the world. We can solve problems because we have fellow alumni, we have a name, we have somebody we can find, and they're more than willing to work with us. But those best practices, they need to be developed. They need to be sought, and we can't do it by saying that we have the best of everything and be too scared to say we can try something new or that somebody else has something we could try.
Well, there are going to be 2 questions that I think will probably come up a lot on your campaign, but also I know will be important to viewers of this audience. And one of those is, what's your position on the use of drones as a tool for law enforcement?
I think that drones bring up all new tech, and there's a cyber area too that I didn't mention in the local region. We are looking at cyber because I believe cyber is really where our next threat is. It's already out there. You looked at the Target issue and others. We need to do a better job about being proactive and going after this, because when somebody can take all your information on a credit card, when we're using issues now or devices like insulin injectors, and your home is now totally computerized, and even pacemakers can be computerized. What does it take for somebody to give you a hot shot if they can hack into your computer and steal your information? We have to be very careful about how far we go and what the boundaries are with electronics.
Right.
But what I will say is, when it comes to drones, I think everything can be used as a tool, but it has to have that balance. We have to continually get the right conversations going. We can't sit there as law enforcement in a shell and say, we're excluding all other viewpoints. We are only going to go with this safety first and security first. We have to say what also is the privacy rights of citizens. So I think we're doing that. And of course, with the Fusion Center, they have those kind of conversations all the time. And that's what I really enjoy about it. Not somebody who's going to give lip service to another opposing point of view, but somebody who's going to actually listen. And that segues into what I want to do. I believe that we sometimes, as a sheriff's office, can get pretty full of ourselves. We forget where we came from, we forget that we serve, and we don't have a State of the Sheriff's address. We don't have community forums where people are always invited to give feedback because, truthfully, after you're elected, you don't have to for 4 years. What I'd like to do is I've already talked to people about an accountability group of very judges, community members, former law enforcement, who will give me that kind of feedback, and that's what I believe a sheriff needs. I believe you can do it the other way, but you miss a big piece of intelligence, of communication, of ideas. I don't have all the ideas. What I've been known for is collaboration, accountability in a respectful way, fairness. So that's what I want to continue to bring to the office of sheriff.
Okay, and one other that'll be, because you're a sheriff, you're going to have oversight over things like citizens' rights to bear arms, as well as concealed carry permits. Couple seconds on how you feel about both of those issues.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that for me, I had to look back and see what we've been doing. We haven't been very transparent. There were a couple of Mercury News articles written, and I'm keeping a very high-level campaign. I am not going down in the dirt, but what I will say is, given the fact that a lot has been written about already, I don't think it's right to give concealed weapons permits to the people who are supporting your campaign only. I think that that shouldn't be a consideration. Sure, somebody may give, and they're not going to be excluded because they gave to a campaign, but when it looks like, the appearance even, that that's who the guns are going to, and so few are given, that's wrong. What I've told people from all sides of the equation are this: I want to be the fair sheriff. I want to be a person who reviews the process now in light of the laws in California and nationally, and I want to make a process that's fair to everyone. I do believe in the Second Amendment. I do believe that people can have arms. At what point that balance comes, just like we're balancing the other equation with self-protection, with people who shouldn't have weapons, the mentally ill, what kind of an evaluation process do we give? What's the criteria? The thing I will tell you is I'm going to have a criteria, and I'm involving all stakeholders in the process. And I think that some people are scared to have that conversation. Sure, it's a no-winner for some. You're going to lose some people and you're going to win some people. But if it's fair and it's transparent, I think at least they feel good. And that's what I've done as assistant chief of the jails. I was the captain of court security for all the courts in Santa Clara County for 2 years, from Palo Alto all the way to Gilroy, 100 judges. And that was probably one of my favorite assignments because I had such a great working relationship with the courts, with probation. We had a streamlining committee. And I loved that because I was in on the ground floor. And what it did is it brought all these stakeholders into a meeting that sometimes don't get along. Public defender, DA, probation, the court staff, the sheriff's office security, judges. And when those problems came up, we solved them. We didn't always see eye to eye, but we had an ability to circumvent the red tape and to say, can we get this done because we're meeting here and bringing up issues that otherwise would be fought at a lower level that would never get through.
And so what would lead you from going to being in a deputy side role or working in the jails, et cetera, to wanting to do something more administrative and highly political, such as running for sheriff in the first place?
Yeah, I believe that we need more policing and less politics as sheriffs. I know it's a political field and I want to understand and navigate the politics, but I don't want to be that politician. I've always felt like and I've noticed this since 6 months since I declared, what I've found is this: there is a lot of politics, a lot of quid pro quo, people asking for things, people expecting things. And I understand it. I was an administrator for the last 10, 12 years. I was a lieutenant in charge of community services. I was the division commander over many units in that time, as the coroner, as the Stanford liaison, as, like I said, the assistant chief of the jails. So I understand the administrative process. What I think we need to do is understand that you can hold people accountable and be fair. I'm a teacher. I go in and I teach the very first learning domain in the police academy: professionalism, ethics, and leadership. And when I teach that, I try to get people to remember why they took the job. What values do we share? We can have different cultures, different religions, but the one thing I found is that my basic set of core values align perfectly with law enforcement: fairness, justice, integrity, honesty. We're not punishing people. We're doing a process that protects people. We're helping you, we're helping them. We even protect inmates from other inmates. and hopefully from officers, those very few that go the other way. So that's what drives me, is I want to be the person that I wanted up there as a deputy. I want to have a person that models the behavior and models this to other chiefs. I don't believe I have to rule the other chiefs in the county, but I can certainly provide for opportunities for me to partner with them and at times lead a regional effort. I think it's very simple when we get down to it. It's respect, it's fairness, it's trust. And trust is why I'm running the job, why I'm running for sheriff, because I was asked to do this by a membership who's lost trust.
And so that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about. It seems that from an outsider's perspective and from what I've been hearing, that the membership isn't exactly happy with the current scenario. Talk to me a little bit about that. I gave you permission. I'm sucking it out of you. Come on.
Yeah. So keeping it at a high level, what I'll say is that the sheriff's been there for 4 terms, 16 years, 43 in law enforcement, and I wish her well. But it's time for a change. We can do better. And the reason I know that is because when you get 12 votes of the men and women who do the job for you, and I got over 400. And the reason was not because I've walked on water or because I've done magic tricks.
I'd want to see that if you were going to, and it's got to be deeper than a 3-inch
Exactly.
puddle.
I received those votes because I've tried to be fair. I just believe that my values are such that that's why I got into the job. And it doesn't take a whole lot. You have to care about people. And the problem with caring is that it takes a little bit more time. You can't have somebody else do that for you. You can't close your door, and you can't just shoo them away. If somebody comes to me and wants to talk about something, I've always been there. I've been at their hospitals, I've been at their events, major life events, but it takes a little bit more time to do that. But what you gain with that is you invest in relationships. And this job to me is about relationships. That's why I can walk somebody off the job, and I have, and I can shake their hand, even though their life in their mind is over because they've just lost this fantastic job and their respect. But I told them, don't let this job define you. It is certainly a big part of what you've done in the past, but go on and do something more, do something different. I'm sorry that it ended this way, but I can hold people accountable. But I also feel like you don't have to be rude in doing it, and it takes an extra effort to do that.
Mm-hmm. And so we've got about 2 minutes left. Quickly, I mean, top 3 things that you want to see done to change the county for the better.
I believe that we have to take a real hard look at the trust level first, the basics. Let's get the trust back of our community. It's not just internal, it's external. Okay. What does our community need? Right now, we are really hurting in the area of burglaries and of response. We have staffing at the sheriff's office that I believe must be better. We need to be able to respond and have the people doing the job have enough partners out there on a given shift and not feel like they're overworked. So we need to do that hiring. Secondly, I believe we also need to collaborate with the other chiefs. Criminals don't know boundaries. There is a level of respect for the position right now. But I've known these chiefs for a long time, and they're great men and women. So what I believe is we need to get that collaboration and meet more in a real relationship and not just by maybe
phone and
lip
email.
service. Exactly.
Okay. And last one?
I think the last one would be I want to get back to being proactive and not just responsive, but getting out there like we used to do. And I believe, and so partial history, what we used to do is have a person in the schools, after school sports in the Paula area of East Side, and we also used to do a couple things that I want to bring back. The community services division, and then being proactive with this new technology, best practices, public-private partnerships. Let's move ahead. Let's really care again about why we took the job in the first place. And with the support of the men and women who do the job, it makes things much easier to gain their support and to try new things. And I believe that's what I'll bring to the sheriff's office.
And last thing, because we've only got a few seconds left, how can people find more about you, your background, and your campaign?
I have a website. It's Kevin Jensen for Sheriff. 2014.com.
Okay. Jensen is spelled?
Jensen.
Okay.
And I'd appreciate people looking into it because I don't want a vote of somebody who hasn't at least researched and known what I stand for. And it's out there. I've served the community for 28 years in this, and I've got 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and I think that I'm a part of this community that really wants to give back.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about you and your background. And if you hold on for just a moment, we'll be back after a word from our underwriter, the Conservative Forum.
The Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley began with 20 conservatives meeting at a restaurant in November of 2003. Our mission is to promote the principles of American liberty through education. By 2012, we had grown to over 600 paid members. Our monthly meetings feature well-known and prestigious conservative speakers addressing issues that are critical to our country's very survival. This includes speakers like Victor Davis Hanson, Andrew Breitbart, David Horowitz, and many others. In addition to our monthly meetings, we sponsor a conservative local cable access TV show, The Right Side, covering today's topics. Our Constitution discussion group not only teaches the Constitution, but started our annual essay contest that awards 2 $1,000 scholarships to local high school seniors. We are a virtual clearinghouse for grassroots organizations by providing them with table space at no charge in our exhibit area. There are typically a dozen groups represented. If you are like-minded, join us at our next meeting and become motivated and empowered. Liberty, made in America.
And that was a word from our underwriter, the Conservative Forum. We appreciate their help immensely because without them, I'd be doing something else this time of the month that we actually get a chance to tape the show. So thank you very much, Conservative Forum, for what you do. But we also acknowledge that's not what the Conservative Forum is really best known for. What they are best known for is their speaker series. So for example, in January, Evan Sayet is addressing the forum. And in February, Victor Davis Hanson, ever popular amongst our group. And in March, Greg Lukianoff is the president and founder for Individual Rights in Education, or FIRE. In April, Dr. Bert Folsom from Hillsdale. He's a well-known author and professor. And in May, we're expecting a big turnout for Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Now, typically, except for the 4th of July, the forum meets the first Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock. Doors open around 6:30. And you can meet us at 432 Stearland Road, right here in Mountain View at the IFES Portuguese Hall, about 3 minutes from here. If you need more information about them, visit at theconservativeforum.com. And in closing, you've had a chance this evening to get to know a little bit more about Kevin Jensen. As we'd stated, he's running for sheriff of Santa Clara County, but also, as he suggested, don't make a vote without doing your research. Visit his website, learn more about him, and reach out to him. He's an approachable guy, and I'm sure he'll answer your questions with the trust that he's working to build in his campaign, so do reach out. With that, I'd like to say thank you for joining us this evening on The Right Side. I've been your host, Chris Pareja, and we look forward to seeing you again in person, at the forum, or on the show sometime soon. Have a great night.